The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act that just passed the House mandates that when the Department of Education enforces federal anti-discrimination laws, it does so according to a definition of anti-Semitism provided by something called the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. So the legislation is mandating a certain definition of unlawful anti-Semitism, but it has farmed that definition out to this other group. Insanely, the bill itself never gives a definition. It only says that the definition is whatever the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance says it is. The bill adds that the examples of anti-Semitism provided by the same group shall henceforth also be a part of the legal definition of anti-Semitism. But of course, the bill doesn't tell you what those examples are either. Now, when we talked about this yesterday, I didn't know what the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance was. All I knew, all that any of us really need to know, is that it is not a legislative body of the United States government. Whatever it is, it certainly is not an organization that should have any ability to dictate legislation or define the terms in our laws. But the truth is even worse than it first appears. The IHRA is not just some random activist group. It is, as the I for international suggests, an international and intergovernmental organization founded by the Prime Minister of Sweden in 1998. It's comprised of international partners, quote unquote, like the UN and the EU, and then also 35 member countries, including the United States, the UK, and of course, Israel. Now, what this means is that our legislation is being farmed out specifically to foreign powers. Should this bill become law, it will mean that a group of foreign governments have had a say in developing speech restrictions that govern American citizens. Now, that is more than enough reason to oppose the bill absolutely and unequivocally. I would want to take this legislation and shoot it into the sun based solely on the fact that it gives foreign governments any power at all over our own people. Even if I otherwise agreed with the text of the bill, I would still oppose it on that basis alone. But I don't agree. No freedom-loving, self-respecting American should agree. As we talked about yesterday, if you go to the IHRA website to find out what their definition of anti-Semitism is, the first glance won't be very shocking. According to its definition, anti-Semitism is basically hatred of Jews. That makes sense. The trouble really starts, however, when you scroll down the page a bit and you get to examples of anti-Semitism that this cadre of foreign governments has provided. And there you'll find a number of examples which will have the force of law under this bill, including the following. Quote, these are all examples of anti-Semitism. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. Denying the Jewish people the right to self-determination, e.g. by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Applying double standards by requiring of it behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, e.g. claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel, to characterize Israel or Israelis. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the State of Israel. Now, there are a number of very serious problems here. The first is that most of these examples of anti-Semitism, statements that the bill would legally classify as hate speech against Jews, are actually criticisms of the Israeli government. And whether you think the criticisms are fair or not, whether you think they're true or not, it should go without saying that American citizens have the right in any and all contexts to criticize foreign governments in whatever way and using whatever language they want. You should be able to say anything you want about a foreign government, including it's evil, it's terrible, it should exist, it should be wiped off the face of the earth. Now, I'm not saying it's right to say that, but of course you should have the right, have the right to say that about a foreign government as an American citizen. Are you kidding me? We have the right to criticize foreign government. We have the right to criticize our own government. So we must certainly then have the right to criticize the governments of other nations. Now, keep in mind, it's not just one or two opinions about the Israeli government that you're not allowed to have under this bill. That would be bad enough. Dictating the viewpoints that Americans can have or express about a foreign country is pure madness. It is evil, no matter how limited the rules might be. But these rules are actually incredibly wide in their scope. After all, It says that applying double standards to the state of Israel is anti-Semitic. Well, there are hundreds of opinions you might have about Israel that could be classified as double standards. And who determines which opinions are double standards and therefore forbidden? Well, apparently the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance gets to decide. You may recall that Israel is a member country in this alliance, which means that Israel has a hand in deciding which opinions about itself are lawful for Americans to express. When I said that this is one of the worst pieces of legislation we've ever seen, I wasn't exaggerating. Now, there's another example on the list that's gotten some attention. It's anti-Semitic to claim that Jews killed Jesus. That's what the IHRA says. But that is not a claim invented by anti-Semites. That's in the gospel. According to every gospel account of Christ's passion, the Romans carried out the execution of Jesus at the insistence and behest of the Jewish authorities that handed him over to be killed and the mob that called for his death. Now, that's what the gospel says. It may be true that some actual anti-Semites, as in those who hate Jews, have used these biblical passages as a justification for their hatred. But that does not make the passages themselves false or evil or anti-Semitic. And it certainly doesn't give Congress the right to tell Christians that they cannot believe or repeat what is in those passages. It is an incredibly dangerous precedent to put anything into law, anywhere, for any reason, declaring aspects of the Bible hate speech. So this bill is dangerous and unconstitutional and wrong on every level.